the annals of history, there are those whose names are whispered with fear, revulsion, and morbid fascination. They are the predators who walk among us, leaving trails of devastation and terror in their wake. This is their story. Jack the Ripper, the faceless spectre who haunted the gaslit streets of Victorian London, leaving horror in his wake. Aileen Wuornos, the highway killer who claimed vengeance as her motive. Dennis Nilsen, a man who turned his home into a tomb for the innocent. Dr. Harold Shipman, the trusted physician whose crimes made him the deadliest of them all. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, whose reign of terror spanned decades. John Wayne Gacy, the Clown Killer, whose mask of laughter concealed horrors beyond comprehension. In the isolated Andes, darkness fell in a place where escape was a dream. Ted Bundy, the charismatic monster who lured his victims with charm and cunning. The Boston Strangler, whose name brought a city to its knees. Jeffrey Dahmer, the cannibal killer whose crimes defied belief. Ed Gein, the grave robber whose grotesque deeds inspired tales of cinematic horror. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, who made the City of Angels a place of nightmares. The Red Ripper, Andrei Chikatilo, whose monstrous acts shocked the Soviet Union. And the Zodiac Killer, the cryptic enigma who continues to taunt the world from the shadows. These are the most evil men and women in the world. Their stories are a window into the darkest recesses of the human mind and the unspeakable horrors that dwell there.
Imagine a time when the city of Boston was gripped by a fear so intense it was almost palpable. The early 60s marked an era of prosperity and safety, a time when doors were left unlocked and neighbors knew one another by name. But this sense of security was brutally shattered as a dark shadow began to loom over the city. The serene calm was broken by a series of horrific murders, each more chilling than the last. 13 women, their lives abruptly ended in the prime of their existence over a span of 2 years. Each crime scene was eerily similar, pointing to a single elusive perpetrator. The city held its breath, the silence punctuated by the whispers of a nameless dread. No one was safe. No one was beyond suspicion. The city was in the grip of an unknown terror, a phantom that would later be known as the Boston Strangler. In the heart of the city, a sinister pattern began to emerge. Boston, a city known for its captivating history and vibrant culture, was gradually being overshadowed by a fear that was both palpable and haunting.
The city is for some glamorous, stimulating, prosperous. Only recently has it become dangerous. 5 young girls have been strangled in the Boston area in little over a year. The stranglings have become the chief topic of conversation between housewives on the telephone, co-eds between classes, and secretaries during coffee breaks. Some carry heavy ashtrays and other artifacts suitable for throwing, and karate and jiu-jitsu courses are becoming very popular. One karate course is advertised as a must for city living.
It would have made a frightening Hitchcock thriller if the crimes hadn't been real. A killer was stalking Boston women, raping and strangling them. In the most grotesque manner, he would display his work, and he always left a bizarre calling card, a nylon tied in a granny knot around the neck of each victim.
They were devastating crimes. They compare, in the annals of crime, they compare absolutely with Jack the Ripper. Perhaps even worse, because they were quiet and they were deadly.
The Strangler's first victim was Anna Slessers, a 55-year-old divorcee, brutally beaten and strangled while a parade passed down her Back Bay street. From June 1962 until January 1964, 10 more women would die the same way. They were young and old, black and white. As the number of victims grew, police became more and more frustrated. No woman felt safe. An intense investigation ensued. Police even brought in a psychic, but their efforts brought no hard leads. It wasn't until 11 months after the last strangling, purely by chance, Cambridge police arrested a con man and rapist named Albert DeSalvo on unrelated charges. DeSalvo confessed to be the strangler. Attorney F. Lee Bailey came in to defend him. DeSalvo related details of the crime no one but the killer could have known. Even though DeSalvo had confessed, police had no hard evidence tying him to the stranglings. These were the days before sophisticated fingerprint and DNA tests. DeSalvo was convicted on unrelated rape charges and sent to jail. Some investigators...
In this
Court decision, yes.
why?
Reporter John Henning covered the Strangler story.
I think he did some of them, but I think there were some copycats, and I think a man named George Nasser, who was Albert's cellmate, might have done a couple of them too. Some of the attorneys always thought that. F. Lee Bailey did, who defended DeSalvo in the crimes that he was convicted for, the assaults.
Albert DeSalvo was found dead on this cot, stabbed 20 times by other inmates. But before his death, Boston detectives recorded several hours of tape with DeSalvo. In one section, he pleads with psychiatrists to examine him and analyze his behavior. A chilling message from the grave now about his perverse but never understood mind.
Some idea might be gotten out of what happened to me. If this will help only one, we've accomplished something. There are many out there. There are many fathers and sons out there that are Albert DeSalvos at a given time.
Although troubling, was a beacon of hope in the dark, a possible end to the reign of the Boston Strangler. But as we peel back the layers of this complex case, we'll find that the shadow of suspicion extends far beyond Albert DeSalvo. As we delve deeper, we'll discover a story filled with controversy, conviction, and unanswered questions. So, stay tuned as we continue to unravel the enigmatic tale of the Boston Strangler. But in the world of crime and justice, things are rarely black and white. As we delve deeper into the disturbing saga of Albert Henry DeSalvo, known to many as the Boston Strangler, we find ourselves enmeshed in a web of controversy and conviction. When DeSalvo confessed to the brutal murders of 13 women, it sent shockwaves through the nation. Yet despite his confession, the case was far from closed. You see, there was one glaring issue that kept investigators awake at night: the lack of physical evidence linking DeSalvo to these heinous crimes. While DeSalvo's detailed accounts of the murders were chillingly accurate, the lack of fingerprints, DNA, or any other tangible proof at the crime scenes left a gaping hole in the prosecution's case. How could a man be convicted for such monstrous acts without concrete evidence? This question gave birth to a wave of controversy. Doubts began to surface, with some experts questioning if DeSalvo was indeed the Boston Strangler or merely a disturbed individual seeking notoriety. Prominent investigators and criminal psychologists raised concerns about DeSalvo's mental state, suggesting his confession could have been the product of a twisted fantasy. They pointed out inconsistencies in DeSalvo's stories and the absence of any direct evidence. Even the lead detective on the case, John Bottomley, expressed doubts about DeSalvo's guilt, stating that he believed the Strangler was still at large. The controversy surrounding DeSalvo's confession reached a fever pitch, with public opinion divided. Some saw him as a monster who deserved to pay for his crimes, while others viewed him as a scapegoat caught in the crosshairs of a desperate law enforcement effort to close the case. In this murky world of half-truths and uncertainties, one fact stood out. Albert DeSalvo was a dangerous man. In 1967, he was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment not for the Strangler's crimes, but for a series of rapes. Despite the controversy, DeSalvo was sentenced to life imprisonment not for the Strangler's crimes, but for a series of rapes. The tale of the Boston Strangler is a web of unanswered questions. As we delve deeper into the Strangler's story, the murkiness of the truth becomes all too apparent. The debate about Albert Henry DeSalvo's guilt is ongoing and complex, like the knots of a tightly woven rope. DeSalvo was imprisoned for life in 1967 for a series of rapes, but his confession to the Strangler's murders has been the subject of intense scrutiny and doubt. He confessed to the murders of 13 women, yet the inconsistencies in his accounts have led many to question the veracity of his claims. Could one man truly be responsible for such a reign of terror? Or were there multiple hands at work, hidden in the shadows of Boston's cobbled streets? In 2013, a glimmer of clarity seemed to emerge from the fog of uncertainty. DNA evidence was discovered that linked DeSalvo to Mary Sullivan, the strangler's final victim. This scientific breakthrough seemed to confirm DeSalvo's guilt in at least one of the murders, but it also raised further questions. If DeSalvo was responsible for Sullivan's murder, did he also commit the others? However, the DNA evidence hasn't entirely silenced the skeptics. Some argue that it only proves DeSalvo's connection to one crime, not a series. Others suggest that the strangler's victims were so varied in age, social status, and lifestyle that it seems unlikely one person could be responsible for all the murders. Could there have been multiple killers, each with their own motives and methods operating under the umbrella of the Boston Strangler's infamy? These questions remain, echoing through the years and reminding us of the enigmatic figure of the Boston Strangler. The story of the Boston Strangler is a chilling reminder of the mysteries that can lurk in the heart of a city, hidden in plain sight.
A doctor's hands, usually a symbol of healing, turned into instruments of death. Harold Shipman, an English general practitioner, is believed to have killed nearly 250 of his patients. These hands, which should have been saving lives, were instead snuffing them out. Harold Shipman, known to many as Dr. Death, held the grim distinction of being one of the most prolific serial killers in recorded history. His patient list was extensive, spanning over 2 decades from 1972 to 1998, and his victims were numerous. Nearly 250 unsuspecting souls who trusted him with their health and well-being met an untimely demise at his hands. A chilling number, indeed, that far outweighs the grim tally of many infamous killers. But who was Harold Shipman, really? To the outside world, he was a caring family doctor, a trusted figure in the community. Shipman was a man who had chosen a profession dedicated to the preservation of life, yet he used it as a veil for his cruel intentions. His patients, mostly elderly, saw in him a compassionate caregiver. But beneath this caring facade lurked a monster, a grim reaper in a white coat. This shocking contrast between public image and private actions is what makes the story of Harold Shipman so horrifying. The very person whom patients turned to in their hour of need, the very hands that were supposed to heal, were the bringers of their doom. And his malevolence didn't end with murder. Shipman went on to forge wills, claiming the wealth of those he had killed. He even went as far as cremating the bodies, a final attempt to erase his gruesome deeds. Harold Shipman, a healer turned killer, etched his name in history as one of the deadliest serial killers of the 20th century. His legacy serves as a chilling reminder that evil can hide behind the most unsuspecting of faces and in the most trusted of professions. Born into a working-class family in 1946, Harold Shipman was a bright student who pursued a career in medicine. With an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and a keen intellect, he quickly distinguished himself in his studies. Hailing from Nottingham, England, young Harold was deeply affected by his mother's death due to lung cancer when he was just 17. It was during this challenging time that he first encountered the power of morphine, a drug that would later become a significant tool in his deadly arsenal. After his mother's death, Harold decided to dedicate his life to medicine. He earned a place at Leeds School of Medicine, where he excelled in his studies and graduated in 1970. His early career was marked by a sincere dedication to his patients and a knack for diagnosis that earned him the respect of his peers. In 1974, he moved to Todmorden, West Yorkshire, to join a medical practice. It was here that his commitment to healthcare and his community made him a well-respected figure. In 1977, Shipman moved to Hyde, Greater Manchester, where he started a solo practice. The people of Hyde saw him as a pillar of the community, a dedicated doctor who was always there for his patients. He was the epitome of a family doctor, the one who knew every patient's history without needing to look at their medical records. As his career progressed, however, there were whispers of discrepancies in patient records, of an unusually high number of deaths among his patients, of cremation forms signed a little too hastily. Yet, these were brushed aside. After all, this was Dr. Shipman, the respected, caring doctor who had served his community for decades. But beneath this veneer of respectability, a dark desire was taking shape. A desire that would lead to one of the most horrific series of crimes ever committed by a medical professional. The Grim Reaper in a white coat was only just beginning his deadly practice. From 1972 to 1998, Shipman's practice took a deadly turn. His patients, mostly elderly women, began dying under suspicious circumstances. In the quiet town of Hyde, Greater Manchester, the seemingly kind and dedicated Dr. Harold Shipman morphed into a sinister figure, methodically claiming the lives of his trusting patients. The doctor's weapon of choice? A lethal cocktail of drugs, often diamorphine, administered under the pretense of routine medical care. But how did this friendly neighborhood doctor transform into a cold-blooded murderer? It wasn't a sudden change. Rather, it was a calculated evolution, underpinned by a chilling ability to manipulate those around him. Shipman exploited the trust and respect his patients had for him, using his professional authority to cloak his horrifying deeds in a veil of normality. Shipman's victims, often elderly and living alone, were the perfect targets. Their deaths, while shocking, were easily explained away as the result of old age or existing health conditions. And Shipman, the caring doctor, was always there to provide comfort and reassurances to the grieving families. But Shipman wasn't just killing his patients. He was also forging their wills, making himself the beneficiary of their estates. This, combined with his insistence on cremating the bodies to erase any evidence of his crimes, added a layer of financial motivation to his deadly deeds. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of Shipman's crimes was his ability to avoid suspicion for so long. His reputation as a dedicated and caring doctor, coupled with the natural causes listed on the death certificates, kept the authorities at bay for decades. Shipman's cunning manipulation of the system allowed him to continue his killing spree unhindered. In a disturbing twist, Shipman often attended the funerals of his victims, feigning grief over their loss. A macabre act indeed. But to those who knew him, it was just another sign of his dedication and compassion. Little did they know, the real Harold Shipman was hiding in plain sight, a wolf in a doctor's coat. The curtain began to lift on Shipman's deadly game in the late 1990s when a local undertaker noticed a high death rate among Shipman's patients. This grim observation sparked an investigation into the seemingly benign doctor, but the initial inquiry was inconclusive. However, the seeds of doubt had been sown, and the authorities kept a watchful eye. A breakthrough came when the daughter of one of Shipman's victims, a lawyer named Angela Woodruff, became suspicious of her mother's sudden death and the subsequent will that left her entire estate to Shipman. Woodruff's dogged pursuit for justice led to a deeper investigation into Shipman's practice. The authorities exhumed the bodies of several patients and found lethal doses of diamorphine in their system. The connection was undeniable. Shipman had been killing his patients. As the evidence stacked up, Shipman was arrested in September 1998. He was charged with the murder of 15 patients and forgery. The trial that followed was one of the most high-profile in British history. The prosecution presented a strong case, highlighting the unusual death rate among Shipman's patients, the presence of diamorphine in their bodies, and the forged wills. Shipman, on the other hand, maintained his innocence, claiming that the lethal doses of drugs were administered to alleviate pain, not to kill. The jury didn't buy it. After 6 days of deliberation, they found Shipman guilty on all counts. The judge, Justice Thane Forbes, described him as an evil and wicked man and sentenced him to 15 life terms with a recommendation that he never be released. Shipman was also stripped of his medical license, ensuring that he would never again be in a position to harm. In January 2000, Shipman was found guilty of 15 counts of murder and 1 count of forgery. His reign of terror had finally come to an end, but the damage he had done would continue to haunt his victims and their families for years to come.
The result is the right result. It was the only result that could possibly have been. My mother trusted Dr. Shipman. He cynically and callously betrayed that trust.
In a final act of control, Harold Shipman decided to meet death on his own terms. In 2004, 4 years into serving his life sentence, the man dubbed Dr. Death chose to end his own life. He was found hanging in his cell at Wakefield Prison, leaving behind a legacy of terror and death that still haunts the annals of British crime history. The man who had once wielded a syringe with lethal intent had now turned a noose on himself. The irony of the situation was not lost on the public. The doctor who had taken so many lives had now taken his own. His suicide sparked a wave of controversy and debate. Some felt a sense of relief. The monster was finally gone. Others felt cheated, robbed of justice. They saw his suicide as an escape, a way to avoid paying for his horrifying crimes. Despite his death, the specter of his crimes continued to linger. His victims' families were left with a gaping wound, a void filled with unanswered questions. Why did he do it? What drove a seemingly ordinary doctor to become a ruthless killer? These questions echoed in the minds of those he left behind, a haunting reminder of the man who had once been a trusted family doctor. Yet even in death, Shipman continued to manipulate and control. His suicide took place on the eve of his 68th birthday, allowing his wife to receive a full widow's pension. In a final act of manipulation, he once again pulled the strings, even from beyond the grave. The story of Harold Shipman is a chilling tale of betrayal and death. It's a stark reminder of the potential for evil that can reside in the most unsuspecting of places. A doctor's surgery, a small town, the hands of a man sworn to heal, not harm. Shipman died as he lived, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. His story is a chilling testament to the depths of human depravity, a grim tale of death, betrayal, and the ultimate abuse of trust. The Shipman case sent shockwaves through the medical community and society at large. It was a moment of reckoning, a catalyst for change, and a stark reminder of the immense trust we place in those who care for our health. The aftermath of Shipman's crimes saw sweeping changes in the medical field, particularly in the United Kingdom. The Shipman Inquiry, a 2-year-long investigation into the circumstances surrounding the serial killings, resulted in a thorough revision of medical practices and policies. The checks and balances regarding death certification and the handling of controlled drugs were significantly tightened. The role of coroners was expanded, and stricter regulations were imposed on cremation forms to prevent future misuse. In addition to policy changes, the Shipman case sparked a broader conversation about the nature of trust in the medical profession. The case was a stark reminder that blind trust, even in those who've sworn the Hippocratic Oath, can have lethal consequences. It emphasized the importance of vigilance, of questioning, and of holding those in positions of power accountable. This case also highlighted the need for better mental health support within the medical community. Shipman's ability to operate undetected for over 2 decades raises questions about the pressures and isolation experienced by doctors and the potential consequences when these issues go unaddressed. Finally, the Shipman case underscored the importance of listening to and believing victims and their families. Many of Shipman's victims had family members who raised suspicions, but their concerns were initially dismissed. The case served as a poignant reminder that every voice matters, and every concern deserves attention. In conclusion, the lessons from the Shipman case are many. They touch on trust, vigilance, accountability, mental health, and the value of every voice. The story of Harold Shipman serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes evil can hide in the most unexpected places. In the aftermath of the Shipman case, many found it hard to reconcile the image of the caring doctor with the reality of the ruthless killer. The shockwaves of this revelation rippled through the once trusting community, leaving behind a sense of deep betrayal long after the final verdict was handed down. Hyde, the small town where Shipman practiced, was a close-knit community. Its residents, mostly elderly, had placed their trust in their local doctor, seeing him as a lifeline, a comforting presence. They were left grappling with the bitter truth that the man they had trusted so implicitly was the very source of their fear and loss. The families of the victims bore the brunt of this shocking revelation. Many had lost their loved ones, only to later discover that their deaths were not of natural causes, but the result of the cold, calculated actions of their trusted doctor. The pain of loss was magnified by the betrayal and the lingering question of why. The legacy of the Shipman case goes beyond the immediate impact on the town of Hyde. It shook the medical community to its core, leading to a comprehensive review of medical practices and procedures. The case prompted a greater emphasis on patient safety, stricter controls on drug access, and more thorough death certification processes. This dark chapter in medical history has, in a way, led to more robust safeguards, designed to prevent a similar tragedy from happening again. Yet, the case has left an indelible mark on the psyche of the nation. It's a chilling reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, even behind the comforting smile of a trusted doctor. It's a cautionary tale that underscores the importance of vigilance, of questioning, and of not taking things at face value. The Shipman case is a stark reminder of the human capacity for evil, even within those we entrust with our lives. It's a story of a man who used his position of power and trust to commit heinous acts, undetected for years. It's a narrative of a community shattered, a profession shaken, and a nation shocked. But it's also a tale of resilience, of a community that, despite the betrayal, managed to rebuild and heal, of a medical profession that took a hard look at itself and instituted necessary changes, and of a nation that, although scarred, continues to hope and trust. The story of Harold Shipman is one of devastation and loss, but it's also one of lessons learned and changes made.
In the quiet town of LaPorte, Indiana, Nestled among the rolling green fields and rustic farmhouses, a tale of darkness was unfolding, a tale shrouded in mystery and blood. A tale of Belle Gunness, a woman whose name would become synonymous with unimaginable horrors and unanswered questions. This is the story of Lady Bluebeard, a seemingly ordinary woman with a penchant for the extraordinary, the terrifying, and the deadly. Belle Gunness, a Norwegian-American woman, was born on November 11th, 1859. Her early life, much like the woman herself, was shrouded in mystery. She emigrated to America in 1881, seeking a better life. But it was here, in the land of dreams, that Belle's dark journey would begin. In 1884, Belle married her first husband, Mads Sorensen. The couple seemed happy, opening a candy store together, but their sweet life was short-lived. The store mysteriously burned to the ground. The couple collected insurance money, a pattern that would ominously recur in Belle's life. Shortly after, Mads died of heart failure, on the only day both his life insurance policies were in effect. The cause of his death raised eyebrows, but Belle walked away a wealthy widow. Belle's second husband, Peter Gunness, met a similarly tragic fate. Just 9 days after their marriage in 1902, Peter died from a skull injury. Belle claimed a meat grinder had fallen on him, but suspicions were rife. The coroner's report suggested murder, yet Belle once again walked free, richer by another insurance payout. But husbands weren't Belle's only victims. She had a penchant for lonely, wealthy men who answered her personal ads seeking companionship. They arrived at her farmhouse with pockets full of cash, dreams of love, but met a grim fate instead. Their disappearances went unnoticed, their letters home, penned by Belle herself, reassured worried families. Belle's reign of terror came to a fiery end in 1908 when her farmhouse burned to the ground. In the ashes, authorities found the remains of Belle's 3 children and the body of a headless woman, believed to be Belle herself. But was it? The body was smaller than Belle's hefty frame, and the head was never found. In the property's hog pen, they discovered a gruesome sight, the bodies of at least 11 people, a chilling testament to Belle's deadly allure. But the investigation, hampered by the era's limited forensic capabilities, left many questions unanswered. Was the headless body really Belle's? Had she faked her death and escaped? The mystery of Belle Gunness, Lady Bluebeard, remains unsolved. Her story, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of ordinary life, continues to haunt the annals of American crime history. A woman of mystery, a woman of darkness, a woman of many victims. Belle Gunness's story is a chilling tale of greed, deception, and death. A tale that leaves us wondering, questioning, and forever looking over our shoulders.